Hello and welcome to the APLCrafts podcast. My name is Alicia and I'll be your host today. And this is episode 4, I believe. Today's date is the 6th, and I've realized that I haven't mentioned the date in any of my other podcasts. So I apologize for that. Today is April 6th. Hopefully I'll get this podcast up tonight. If not, then I'll have to wait until my husband gets home and does all the techie things, and then he can help me get it up either tonight or tomorrow. I am filming in Middle Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, and I live here with my husband and my 2 grown kids. One's in college and one's getting ready to graduate high school. So that's exciting. You can find me on the social medias as APLCrafts on Twitter and on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram as APLCrafts_mid_Tennessee. My Ravelry name is ChrisPaul97, and hopefully I will change that soon. I just have to figure out what I want to call it because I have to throw numbers in there now. You can't just do a name. And I don't know how long it's been that way. I'm guessing since I started, because I've only been on Ravelry for maybe 2 years. So, but for now, it's ChrisPaul97. I do have a couple of designs on there, not many. I think for 2 blankets and a shawl and a farmer's market bag. And you can find those under Alicia Baines Designs. And I'm not sure if I can change the name on that either, because even though I've been on Ravelry for 2 years, I'm pretty much a noob, and I'm trying to change that and get a little bit more involved in the groups and stuff, because I am a part of 13, 14 groups, something like that, but I'm not really active, and I do need to change that. So maybe as I learn more about Ravelry, I could figure out how to change names and if I can change names and what to do and all that. Well, today is a very rainy day out here, and it's making me very tired. And I had to drag my butt in gear to actually do a podcast today, because I was supposed to do one a couple days ago and I just wasn't feeling it. But I have all this accumulation around me, and I figure, I should probably get this done so that I have new things to show you for the next podcast, right? But let me address the elephant in the room first. Look! Yay! It's done! Let me see if I can move this a little bit. That's my abalone shawl. And I did actually make a video going through all my stash. So I'll throw this in somewhere, probably at the end or in the middle or something. So you guys can see what I have. And I've got some totes down here. This is all like I hate to use the word nicer yarn, but it's the little bit, it's nicer yarn. Why am I gonna lie? It's nicer yarn. So I have that on display. But I really love my shelving, because now instead of having to go through all my totes and figure out color combinations and whatever, I can just go, oh, there we go. Or, hey, this goes good together, and I don't have to make a mess and, throw totes all over the room and looks like the Tasmanian devil's gone through. So, yeah, I'm happy that's done. And, almost immediately after the last podcast, it went up, so that was pretty sweet. So I've been enjoying this, and already it needs to be reorganized. But hey, what are you gonna do? So I should probably tell you that this podcast is primarily knitting and crochet, right? In case you haven't guessed, And now that it's definitely getting, maybe springtime. I mean, the weather's been kind of crazy in this country for the last month, and it was getting hot, and then it got cold, and then it got hot, and then it got cold, and I want to say I'm going to throw a little bit of gardening in here like I've been saying I was going to do, but, it's Mother Nature, I think, has other plans. I have no idea. I go on Facebook, and I'm looking at, on that little section on this day, so you can see past posts from years past, and yeah, I'm already, in years past gardening. I've got stuff growing and yada yada. I got hardly anything going on this year. It's just, I think right now it's 45 degrees outside, which is really rare for April and outside of Nashville. It just doesn't happen, at least not since I've been down here, and I've been down here 13 years. Or is it 14? I don't remember now. I've lost count. Not that important. But I do actually have some seedlings going, and I'll talk about that later, and did a little bit of planting, and that's kind of subpar. But, you know, I make gardening sound like I actually know what I'm doing, and really I don't. I like to pretend that I do, and I'm kind of, I'm definitely, even though I've been doing it for years, is my knowledge of it hasn't really expanded, mostly because I've been focusing on other things. But hey, as long as you have fun, that's the important thing, right? Right? Sweet. All right. So I'm going to go through the agenda for today. So today I've got some finished objects, and not really that many, it's just a little bit. I've got works in progress, acquisitions, and kitty news at the end, and all things personal. So, I have everything precariously balanced here. I don't know how other podcasters do it, and I know a few people have said they have their camera or their phone balanced on boxes. So, full disclosure, I've got a blanket, 2 boxes, a really thick book, and the camera balanced on all of that. And I'm standing instead of sitting, just so I can get this in the background, because that was kind of the point of having this here, or part of the point. And then I've got all the stuff around me, as you do, and yeah, it's a lot of work to set up. It's more than I thought it was going to be. I thought, oh hey, I could just stick something somewhere. No, you got to think about all kinds of things. But you know, do what you got to do. And yeah, so let's get started. Finished objects. I only have more dishcloths for you guys for finished objects today. I don't remember what colors I showed you last time, but I've got, it's the same patterns. Blue, I haven't put in the ends yet on these. And that waffle pattern. This one's marked because I have a stitch out of place somewhere on here. And I have a friend that wanted to try out some dishcloths, so, because I am going to sell these. So she's getting this one because the stitch is out of place, and I don't want to hear about stitches out of place from a customer. If you sell, you know. I've got a gray one. And then another gray and the waffle pattern. And this one really needs to be blocked because it's all kinds of out of shape, but I just did a mitered square with my scraps. These are all peaches and cream. I don't know what the blue color is called. The gray is dark gray. I actually didn't save any of the ball bands for these. But, no, I have to do a lot of digging to get the cotton out of that one. But anyway, I mean, you can see it. It's mint green, blue, and pink, and light blue, purple, coral, light blue. This is a variegated pink, and I know the last one's sea stripes because I used a lot of these for a market bag that I did sometime last year. And then I made, these are not tied together yet. It's just the outsides. So it's mostly I will say it's a half object because I didn't sew them in, and I'm over here trying to call it a finished object, and really I'm reaching. But these are scrubbies. So what I did was I made about 4.5 inches long by about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. And these are crocheted. Those dishcloths were knitted, but these are crocheted in the linen stitch. And I really like these instead of these for washing dishes because I'm used to those rectangular sponges. And when I tried to go and use one of those washcloths, you know, when I was trying to convert over to the eco-friendly cotton washcloths, it stressed me out. It stressed me out hardcore, I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't do it. Um, but I saw a lot of people online made circle ones and rectangular ones, and I was like, well, let me give that a try. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I have like 3 in my kitchen already, and I'm contemplating whether or not I need to make more because really I don't. You could just throw them in the wash. They last a long time. But, you know, fresh new dishcloths and stuff are nice to have. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just 2 rectangles, and then you could put some that tool material in here if you want. To help generate suds. I've found that either way doesn't matter. You still get the same amount of sud. And then you just have a really long string and you sew them together. And then you've got your scrubby. So I've got that in the pink and the blue. And then I made one in blue and white. And then there's this green, blue, and it's actually like a really pretty sky blue on here. And a darker blue. And I don't remember what this one was called either. But, you know, I'm going to say that I don't know if any of you guys work with peaches and cream, but some of these colors bleed. And it doesn't hurt your dishes or anything, and it doesn't stain your sink. It's just however they processed it when they made these, the dye hasn't dyed clear. Like the, do I have it here? No. Oh yeah, maybe, well, no, I don't. I had a green one that was bleeding pretty bad. That purple one I just showed you bleeds pretty bad. And it's weird because like you want to like give them to somebody or gift them or whatever, and then they bleed, and then you wonder if do they know that they bleed? I mean, is this their first time buying it? Are they, you know, what's going on here? Is it going to be a problem for somebody else? I just want Peaches and Cream to get their stuff together because their yarn is very affordable, and you know, I think that I can't be the only one who's having this problem. Anyway, last one is just another one that's all blue. So those are my finished objects, or half-finished objects, mix thereof. And I am going to move into works in progress. Now, last podcast, I showed you my Maderia sleeveless top that I was working on. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, or I guess it takes you to Berroco. It's by Berroco Design Team, and it takes you to their page, but it's a free pattern. So I got a few more rows on it. Still not a whole lot to show. It's really curling on the bottom, and the bottom has like this garter, like 2 rows of garter, and then it goes into stockinette. And you know, which is fine, and I understand the purpose of that is so that it doesn't curl, but it's still really curling. So I'm either going to have to aggressively block this, or I don't know, just hide it under a cardigan or something. But I'm knitting this on 40-inch US 8s. I believe they are 5mm red lace chiagu. Colorway is Knit Picks, Brava Sport, and Hunter. Let me get the ball band. I'm almost out of this yarn, so there we go. And it's the Hunter colorway. I've started working on this maybe a month ago, but it's not every day, so I suspect it'll probably take me 2 months to make this, even though there's really not much to it. It's just miles and miles of stockinette and decreasing and then doing the straps. But I figure it'll probably take me 3 skeins of yarn, which actually goes into my acquisition, so I'll talk about that part later. It's Knit Picks. Man, you guys got my number. Let me tell you what. Okay, my next work in progress is, oh, you know what? I'm going to enter in a picture of the Maderia sleeveless tops so that you guys can see what the finished product looks like. Okay, now on to the next work in progress. So in episode 2, I believe it was, I talked about my trip to, I keep wanting to call it Signal Mountain. I don't think it's Signal Mountain. Lookout Mountain. On the Georgia-Tennessee line. And on our way home, I wanted to stop at a yarn shop. We didn't want to stop at a yarn shop, but my husband would let me do pretty much whatever I want. So I stopped at a yarn shop, and I picked up 2, actually 3, but I'm using 2 in this project. Dream in Color, the Jilly base, which is 100% superwash merino, 440 yards. And the colors that I got, this one is Hello Dolly. And it's all caked up now, ready to use. And I gotta tell you, this Dream in Color yarn, I'm so in love with it. Like, so in love with it that as I'm like working with it, I can't help but like just stare into the like beautiful abyss of colors, because I don't know how, yeah, it's picking up pretty well. You've got purples and blacks and golds and olive and peaches and oranges, and it's just, oh my god, it's like this, I don't even know if beautiful is a strong enough, I need a word stronger than beautiful, because it's just, oh. Anyway, the other color that I chose for this project that I'm going to tell you about is Juliet's Blush. 100% superwash, 440 yards. And it's like these romantic shades of light and dark rose colors. I don't even want to, it's not even pink, it's rose. Like, if you're really into color, then you know that there's subtle differences between like pinks and rose and blush and all that. But anyway, it's very romantic and to me kind of Victorian looking. But I got a story about about this, and I don't blame Dream in Color at all, because now that I've done a little bit of yarn dyeing, I understand that this skein of yarn or the hanky yarn came to them that way, so they're not going to know, because it didn't look at all like it was going to be as tangled as it was. But can I just tell you that I went, this is like a part of the skein, because I mean, look, right, obviously it's not the same size. So then I have a ball, because I had to cut it trying to untangle this darn thing, and I still have this to untangle, and all that untangling, literally 4 hours. I'm still not done. I don't know what the heck went on wherever, you know, the people who put the yarn together, what happened there. I ugly cried. I'm not gonna lie, I ugly cried, and yeah, but I don't blame the yarn dyer at all, because I know it wasn't their fault. And that happens sometimes. You know, most of the time you're gonna get this, And sometimes you're gonna get this. That's just a fact of life. I accept it, but I still want to complain. But the project I'm working on for this is Lisa Mutch, Vitus Shawl. It's paid for pattern on Ravelry. And let's see. Look at that. Like, can you see why I would just stare at it for a long time instead of actually working on it? Like, it's just so gorgeous. Oh my god. So gorgeous. Like, I just stare at it and stare at it, and it's just um I don't know. I did not write down what the original yarn was for it. I think they actually use a fingering in the pattern as well. I'm using these. This is obviously fingering. I think I told you guys it was fingering. And I'm using US 5s. I don't know why I didn't write this down. 3.75 millimeter red lace chiagu. And this is actually, believe it or not, my first time knitting up someone else's indie dyed yarn. Like, I've knit up my own, but this is my first time using someone else's. So it's been fun, and I'm in love with this company, and I'm gonna be looking to see what else they have, because yeah, it's just gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. I had all these notes all prepped, and then, you know, my week kind of went upheaval, and so some of the stuff that's on my notes doesn't really apply anymore. Ah, I remember now what I was going to say. Okay, so I wasn't supposed to work on this, actually. I was supposed to work on this design that I had in my head for like over a month. And I remember talking about the design in episode 1. And it was supposed to be a shawl, and it was going to be crescent shaped, and I even showed the yarn. It was just practice with Brava Sport and Umber, I think the colorway was something like that. And every stitch that I thought of and tried to put together with the shawl just wasn't working. And I put it down, I picked it back up, and I'm spending hours and hours looking at different lace stitches and this and that. Nothing was working. So then I just left it alone for like a week. And then I was like, okay, maybe I just need to do a different construction here. So then I was like, oh, well, I'll do a cowl. Because why not, right? So I get my yarn over here to practice the design, and I've got it. And the math is great. The math is perfect. You know, the stitch counts, everything's great. I cannot get the repeats should not have been the way they were. Like, it's a 16 row repeat, right? And so I get the first part done. Fine, perfect. Get the second part done. There's some variants. I'm like, okay, well, if it repeats over and over again, I've got a design. Great. You know, get it test knitted to be done. No. Third repeat was off. Fourth repeat was off. Stitch count's the same. What am I doing wrong? I have no idea. I even went so far, and I'll show you in acquisitions, or I'll go further into it in acquisitions, to buy yarn for this pattern. So after like lots of frustration and lots of venting and whatever, I was like, you know what? Either it's just not the time, or I have knitter's block, or I just need to learn more about knitting construction before I can get to this design. So then I picked up the Vitus shawl. And I was like, I just got to take my mind off of this. Because I was getting very, very angry. And the only reason why I'm so stuck on this design is because it's very purposeful for me. It's incorporating relatives in my life that are very important to me, and the colorway was very important because the colors that I bought for this design are not my colors. They're not colors that I would never get from that I would ever get for myself, but they're very important because they're important to the design, and they're important to the people I'm trying to represent in the design. So it's really frustrating me that I can't get this design to work because it's just that important. So I'm going to take a breather. I'm going to do this shawl. Maybe pick up some practice yarn again and figure out the design again and see if I can tweak it, and I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe I have to go a completely different route from a cowl and do something else. I don't know. I'm gonna have to, it's something I'm gonna have to, it has to get done because I really, really want this to be done. Okay, so now I can go into acquisitions. So acquisitions. I guess I'll talk about that yarn with the design, right? Because in itself, it's really pretty. It's just not a color that I would go for because, like I said, they're not my colors, but they're important for the design. But I picked up, she's local to me. This is from Redhead Fibers, DK weight. Is it superwash? Yeah, superwash. 75% superwash, 25% nylon. And I picked it up because I was looking for something that was blues and yellows and greens. And this was the perfect combination of the colors that I was looking for. This is her tag. I guess I should do it that way. Her name is Allison King, and she's local to outside of Nashville. Colorway is Forget Me Not. So I picked up 2 of these because I wasn't sure if I was going to need to or not, and I'm trying to get out of the habit of just picking up one skein of yarn when I'm buying something, because I found that if I just get one skein of everything, I either can't get the skein again or that color again, or I can't find enough projects for one skein, which is also something that I've recognized with my yarn dyeing, because as I was, because I'm still starting out, obviously, and so I'm playing around with it, and so I have a lot of one skeiners, but I'm trying to pair them up because I'm realizing that there's not a whole lot you could do with one skein of yarn. But anyway, it's beautiful. I can't wait to use it for my design. Whenever I can get this design figured out. Oh, you know what? I didn't put a picture up of the Vitus. See, rainy days and Mondays, but it's not Mondays. Rainy days and Fridays. Alright, I'm going to put the picture up. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize for the discombobulation today. But I promise as I keep doing this, I'll get better because practice makes perfect, right? Okay, other acquisitions. So I'll tell you the story about my Maderia sleeveless top. So I'm using this Hunter colorway from Knit Picks, right? And I only had 2 skeins of it because sometime last year I bought one of their value packs. If you're familiar with Knit Picks, they have a bunch of value packs for all their different yarns, and there's, I think you can get as few as 5 and they pick the colors for you, or you can go as many as 30 for a pack. And I got something in between. It was like a woodland, they call it their woodland colors or whatever. So it was all different dark greens, light greens, browns, things that you would find in the woods. So I only had 2 skeins of it, and I'm going, well, my original idea for what I wanted to use these colors for isn't happening, so let me use this color for my sleeveless top, which is fine and good, but I needed another skein so I can get the yardage for the size I'm knitting for. That's fine too. So I go on Knit Picks, and I put the yarn in my cart, and they always have spend 50 or something like that, and you get free shipping. Well, the shipping for one, I think, is somewhere around Don't quote me, but I think it's somewhere around $5. I'm like, well, after I'm paying for this, that's a lot of money for one skein of yarn, right? So of course, like they do, they have a sale going on. Knit Picks, they're enablers. They're such enablers. So my one skein of Bravo Sport Hunter turned into this and this. So I decided I was going to try out their Hawthorne because, you know, they're always pimping their Hawthorne and it's beautiful. So, you know, figure why the heck not. So this is the label for the Hawthorne fingering. And this color is Burlingame. I don't know if you can see that. And it's like these beautiful mid-tones of orange and pink and a little bit of peach in there, dark and light pinks. Beautiful. And then this one, these are all 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide, 357 yards. This color, Eugene Tonal Hand Paint. It looks like eggplant. It's so pretty. It's like these rich tones of dark purple and I think there's a little bit of brown in there with the purple. It very much reminds me of eggplant, which I love. So, yeah. And this color, Arletta. Actually almost looks like a darker version of this one. Of the Burlingame, I think it was. Yeah. So it's just darker colors of the same thing. That's what I'm going with anyway, because that's what it looks like. So darker pinks and a little bit of brown, darker peaches. Looks like a little bit of, I don't want to say, it's showing up gray over here, but it's not gray. It's almost like a dark violet, maybe. And then this color, Kerns. It's a bunch of different shades of gray and slate. Maybe a little bit of brown in here. And then the last color in that collection, Jupiter Speckle. It's not really showing up. But speckles of purple and orange and like a red-brown. Ooh, that's blowing out. Yeah, that's probably the best I can do. I'm actually not really feeling this color, but I can see it working with like this eggplant-y color. I can see it working really well. I mean, I understand why it's in the collection. Just by itself, I don't really care for it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely works with like all these other colors, whether you want to do them all together or one by one. Or heck, you could probably even do it. Yeah. I mean, I get it, but not by itself. Then I picked up this Stroll Tweed and the Persimmon Heather because I needed $4 more to get to the point where I can get free shipping. Like I said, they're enablers. So it's a little darker on the screen, but it's just, you know, it's pretty heather. 65% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 10% Donegal tweed. And the fingering weight is 231 yards, 50 grams. But I do have, and I don't remember what brand this was. This might have been Kramer. But it's just a scrap that I have, but it's also a tweed. And it's the same weight. So I think I'll make something like a hat with these two colors. I'll have to go on Ravelry and find patterns, but I think that'll do. And then before I bought all this stuff, I went on Amazon because we need... Amazon's another enabler, can I just say? We needed a couple dollars to round out something because you know how sometimes if you want to get shipping the next day, you got to get an add-on. Well, I've been needing a needle gauge thing because even though I primarily knit now with the Chiagus and the writing on there, as far as I know, doesn't rub off. I do still have a lot of my older needles. Some of these in here, you know, if I lose them, if I don't keep, like if I lose the packaging, which I'm pretty good about not doing that, but I'm not going to know what size it is. Plus it's also been handy, you know, I haven't taken it out of the package yet because I wanted to show you guys, but I've been looking at it going, okay, so what's a 6? Oh, a 6 is a 4.0 millimeter, a 4 millimeter. So, trying to brush up on my metric because, you know, us Americans don't really know metric all that well. Which needs to change, but that's another topic for another day. But that's all my acquisitions. And I did do a little bit of yarn dyeing over the last week or so. Still playing around with tonals. I'm sorry, I have to reach all the way over here to get my stuff because it's all over. Okay, so this time I decided I was going to play around with blue tonals, and didn't really like the way it came out, mostly because it was, a lot of the colors ended up looking about the same or turned out kind of drab. So I had to do some over dyeing. And I'll show you what I mean. Like these colors, for instance. They're supposed to be, I mean, you can see a little bit of difference here, but they're all pretty similar. Just like, I was going for a gradient. I think that's what, you know, it's going to sound confusing because, you know, they all kind of look the same. I was going for a gradient, and that wasn't working. And so I had to do some over dyeing. I ended up getting similar colors, but different enough that I can't really call it the same dye lot. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with those. This one I'm selling because it's different enough. But it's not like, it just wasn't what I was going for. I have a cat in distress, it sounds like. Hold on. Okay, back now. Anyway, this one is called Wildflower. And it's new merino sock weight. I mean, it's pretty. It just wasn't what I was going for. And then I decided to do, because these look pretty, actually they almost look like they would be the same dye lot. I decided to make this a kit. So these two, this one is Larkspur, and this is Partly Cloudy, because when you look at it, you know, you see like the color of the sky with the clouds, but they're kind of like intermingled, but it's not very cloudy. So that's my kit, and yeah, I mean, I only had 5 left, and I'm not buying any more yarn to dye until the yarn that I already have that's being sold, you know, that inventory goes down. I don't like to have a lot of stuff hanging around. That being said, I just remembered or realized that even though I've been talking about yarn dyeing the last few episodes, I haven't actually talked about where I sell them. I know I've put it in the down there, but I don't really talk about it. So I sell on fibercrafty.com, and they have, it's all fiber related. So you can get wool for spinning and hand-dyed yarn, and they have stitch markers, and it's like Etsy but for yarn dyers and fiber artists. But I still have a bunch of colors available on Fibercrafty, and my shop is APLCrafts Handmade. When I do buy some more yarn, I will be repeating some of these colors because I did take notes, but since I was playing around the first time, I only did like one of each thing. But what I'm going to do is repeat colors of the yarns that I've noticed people like the most, when you put up pictures and you get likes and favorites. This one's Tulip Garden, and it's all micro striped. It's pink orchid and Kelly greens and yellow and lilac, which goes well with peony. Actually, that goes really well with peony. Peony are light and dark orangey pinks with a little bit of purple, which also goes well with kale. This is picking up on the greens in there, and you've got your solids. So you just have like a mixture of like light and dark and medium tones of greens here. And let's see. Let me just dump all this out. Tea roses. And I called this one tea roses because it reminds me of backyard of my mom's old house. When we first moved in, there was a garden in the back, and there were a bunch of little tea roses. And I was young, and it was the first time I ever saw tea roses, and so that just kind of stuck with me. And it's just purple speckles, a little bit of blue speckle, and light, dark, and medium pinks, which goes well with kale and Tulip Garden. See where I'm going with this? It's like, even though I don't have multiples of these skeins, they go well together. So it's not entirely a loss, right? And then I still have Sunshine, which is still blowing out. I remember the last time I showed this, it was blowing out. But goes well with kale, Tulip Garden, tea roses, peony, and Sunshine is dark, light, and medium tones of yellow. It's blinding me. This one needs to be reskeined, but this is Blue Aster, and you've got dark and light tones of blue, which I don't know if it would go. No, it doesn't go with that. It goes with Sunshine. Goes with kale. Oh, that goes really nice. Goes with kale. Goes with peony. All of these, a majority of these are Palworth, New Zealand Palworth, and DK. 437 yards, I believe. And I have cilantro. This color, it just does not, it doesn't photograph well. It's not videoing well. I don't know what to do about that. I can't, maybe I tried taking pictures with it outside. It just really wants to, this is the color I keep getting, and it's not what the color is, and it's really making me unhappy. but it goes with kale. See, it's even messing up the kale color. No. 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 All right. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. If you like it, it's there. This one is Kentucky Bluegrass. Again, with the green's not showing up. I think it's this shade of green because the kale comes out just fine. But once you get lighter, it just doesn't show up. But I'll do my best to describe it. So you've got dark and mid-tones of green, and then these pops of blue. But they're not bright blue. It's like a subtle mid-tone of blue. Now, I've never seen Kentucky Bluegrass before until I moved into my house. And my yard, like many neighborhoods, is just a mishmash of all different types of grass. Because I do not live in an HOA. And usually with neighborhoods that have a homeowners association, everybody has the same type of grass. Not so in these older neighborhoods. So I remember I spent a lot of time in the garden the first few years that we moved here because I've never had a yard as big as I do now. And down here, people think my yard is small. But when you grew up in the inner city, it's like, how much yard do you actually have? Not much. So I still think my yard is freaking huge. But back to the point was that on the side of the house, there's like a patch of grass where if you look at it at just the right angle, you can kind of pick up on the blue, which is what's going on here. You know, if you look at it, you twist it around enough, you look at it, you'll catch like these little bits of blue. I think it's the coolest thing ever. Some people can't stand Kentucky Bluegrass. I'm going, oh my god, it's so pretty. City life, city life. Speaking of city life, I've noticed from watching other podcasters that it's usually the city girls or guys that love the smell of wool. Whereas people who grew up in the country or on farms or whatever are just like, sheep. Who cares? Man, I'm sticking my face in yarn like all day. I'm like, I love this smell. City girl. Okay, moving on. Alright, let's see. This one is, well, that's probably going to work. This is In Bloom. And it's light tones of green with speckles of purples and pinks. And it might be a dot or two of blue, a little bit of blue. And the idea behind that is springtime. Everything's in bloom, so you get, or most things are in bloom, so the tulips and the crocuses and, you know. This is one of the first colorways that I ever did, and this is Summer Love. This was before I decided to come up with a theme to do all garden stuff or garden names for my colorways. And this one has a yellow base and speckles of greens and purple, lilac, yellow, blue, and it goes well with peony, kale, blue aster, Kentucky bluegrass. I don't know if it'll go well with sunshine. Probably not. Tea roses. So that's all I have for yarn that I've dyed. Oh, I should probably mention, if you stuck with me this long, I did notice that I've had a few views on some of my older videos. So if you're still watching, you've returned. Thank you so much for watching those videos. That really actually made me feel a whole lot better about doing this because I was starting to get a little iffy. So I'm glad that there's somebody out there watching me. I really, really, truly appreciate it more than you realize. So please stick around and see what else I'm talking about. And hopefully you'll continue to like it. But I am all done talking about nitty stuff. And so if you just came here for nitty stuff, thank you for watching. I'm going to go into kitty news. So the last episode, and maybe the one before that, but I think mainly episode 3, I was talking about the cat next door that was abandoned when her owners just skipped rent, and they left a mess in there, and found out there were 2 kittens and pregnant mama. Well, we've since got the cats neutered, and they're hanging out with us. Mama still hasn't had her babies yet. So I think I grossly overestimated how pregnant she was. This is my first time being around a pregnant cat, so I'm learning. But she's got to be ready to go sooner or later, because she's got the waddle going, and she's actually, today I've noticed that she's starting to lick down there. So I'm thinking, and she's not eating as much anymore now. So I'm thinking she's gonna have those babies this weekend. Either today, no, probably not today. Probably the weekend. Yeah, and she's like finding she was in my son's room for a long time, but I guess that's not quiet enough for her anymore, which I don't understand because I'm usually home by myself for like half the day. So, but she doesn't hang out, and then she comes in here. I guess it's because I don't really let the other cats in here. So I guess that's more quiet for her, more peaceful. She was actually the one that was making the noise. I had to go and stop the video. Now she's under my bed. Which, please don't have babies under the bed. Oh my god, that would be a nightmare. Have them in the bathroom. Just, there's a bathroom. It's quiet. It's clean. Go in there. I got towels. Everything's all set. So maybe next time I podcast, I will have videos of the kittens. I'm interested to see how many she's got in there. I still think it's 3. My son thinks she's gonna have 2. My college age son, my high school son doesn't care, and my husband thinks she's gonna have 4. Less is better, but I mean, this is, who knows, because this is right after she just had the other 2. So I don't know how that's going to go. But like I said, I'm new to all this. I have no idea. If you guys know, drop a comment. Let me know what I'm walking into. But the plan is, after she has those babies and they could be taken away from mom, I'm going to get them all spayed, neutered, because this is a little ridiculous. Probably will keep them only because there's so many animals out there that can't get a home, and trying to find a home, especially for kittens, while it seems like it would be easy to do, I have a hard time knowing or trusting that I'm going to give cats to the right people. Especially if I don't see a good, healthy cat history with you, I'm definitely not going to give you a cat, because I'm going to feel responsible and guilty for the rest of my life. So I'd rather just, take care of all the babies, and then, somebody I know comes along who actually knows somebody that they trust. We'll go from there. But as it stands right now, we'll be taking care of all the babies. So, yeah, it's probably a little selfish to say I hope she only has like 2 in there. But, she's a small cat. And she only had 2 before. And I don't know if those were the only 2 she had, because we didn't know her then. So I don't know if she had more and they just weren't viable or what. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay, well, I think I'm finally done. I'm going to throw in a little bit of video at the end of the seedlings that I planted. I planted some sage and basil, and I bought lavender, and I bought rosemary. And I had a rosemary bush out front, but it seems like every couple of years we end up having a strong enough ice storm that just kills my rosemary. So it never really gets more than like 1.5 to 2 feet tall before it dies completely. So I think this time I'm just going to leave the rosemary in a pot and just transplant it as necessary. And in the winter, just bring it in and then put it back out when it's warm out. And my lavender, I had outside when I bought it a few years back. And it did okay, but it was right next to, well, when I planted it, it wasn't right next to the oregano. Now, oregano is in the mint family, and if you know anything about mint, it's proliferous. And I let the oregano be proliferous because my husband's obsessed with oregano, and I mean, like when we go to Subway and you put the oregano on there, he's like, no, just take the cap off and just throw it all on there. That it's, I don't know, but he's obsessed. So I just let it go because even though we probably at the end of a season collect, I don't really know how to do weight. 16, maybe 3 pounds of oregano by the end of the season, which is a whole heck of a lot, you know. And I dry most of it. We have a dehydrator, and I have a friend up in Connecticut who I sometimes will mail her some oregano too, because she likes fresh dried oregano, and she doesn't have to go and pay for it. But it's just so, you know. Anyway, so it got to the point where it was growing into the lavender, and the lavender just died out. And then on the other side, I have to redo my whole herb garden because I didn't plan this out. It was very much, oh, let me see what I can put in here this year type of thing. Because on the other side of the lavender that died, I have catnip, which is also in the mint family. I was so smart there, right? Right. Interestingly enough, my herb garden is the only thing that actually grows. I can't seem to grow decent vegetables in the back, but I can do herbs all day. So, I had that going on. It's still there. And then in front of that, I had cilantro. And on one end of the herb garden, I had thyme. The thyme all died out, and I think that was the frost or the ice storm as well that killed that. Behind that, I had asparagus, which takes a few years to really get settled into the ground before it goes. So the first year I had the asparagus, I think I got 1 or 2 stalks out of it. Second year, which was last year, I think I might have picked about somewhere between 6 to 10 stalks of asparagus. This is the third year, so we'll see how that goes. But at the end of this year, I'm going to dig up the whole thing because I have like, I don't know how much you pay attention to dirt, but if you ever see like all these little leaves and stuff just kind of growing in clumps and stuff, it's from this worm that lives like 7 meters underground or some crap, and it comes up like a couple times a year, and it brings all this seed with it, right? So that's where all that comes from. And so I just have this buildup going on, plus I have, you know, the dead lavender and the rosebush that had to come. Well, I had a rosebush in there too. That was the first thing I ever put in there, so I wouldn't do that again. But that's, like I said, I kind of just threw stuff in. So the rosebush came out, rosemary came out, lavender is going out because it's just sitting there dead, with stalks and stuff. So all that's going out, and then I'm going to start fresh for next year. So I'm going to dig all that, put in fresh dirt, put in compost, and then actually plan out a proper herb garden. So in the meantime, for this year, I've got cilantro growing in different places, and I've got the basil in pots and the sage in pots, and the rosemary and the lavender in pots. And in the back, I dug out a spot for my cold weather crops. cold weather spot for snow peas, which didn't come up this year, which is weird because I never ever have a problem planting snow peas, like ever. So I don't know what the deal was with that. It might have just been the spot I put in because I never plant them over there. And I've got like this spot in my garden that just for some reason I can't get anything to grow. But the other side, everything grows fine. And I'm trying to make that other side where hardly anything grows, trying to get it richer. So I figure if I plant some beans in there, I can get some nitrogen in the soil naturally. As I don't like to use chemicals or anything. But it just didn't go up. So I think I'm going to redig that, and probably because it's April now, I may start sticking in the zucchini. I'll have enough space there for 2 to 3 plants of zucchini. Because if we finish off the year normally, it'll be hot until November, and we have enough sunlight until November. And so zucchini is not going to be a problem. It's not going to die off like in the middle of summer or something. And then I have another spot that I'm hoping to stick pumpkin in. I tried pumpkin last year, and it actually just came up. The way I do some of my composting, I just throw it out there and mix it in and just let it rot in the soil instead of actually putting it in a bin. Which, you know, it's a way to do compost. It's the lazy person's way to do compost, I'll put it that way. But I never have a problem with it because I end up something grows in there every year. The soil is very rich. I have no problems. So I can't be doing something wrong, right? So I had pumpkin in there last year, but because it grew so early, I ended up with pumpkins in August. And they were really small, you know, but they were cute little decorative pumpkins I could stick by the fireplace. And actually, they last a long time because they're still, I think they're just now starting to get soft. So that was from August of last year. So that's a long time for pumpkins. That's good storage, guys. And I'm not even doing anything temperature control. It's just there. The cats play with it sometimes. But I think I'm going to purposely plant pumpkin probably in maybe mid-June. No, that's too late. Next month. So maybe the end of May. Hopefully I'll get the timing right and it'll actually be ready when it's pumpkin season. Because PSLs and pumpkins and everything that has to do with pumpkins, y'all. Really. I'm that person. So, yeah, anyway. So there's that. Trying to think if there's anything else that I've planted. No, that's it. Oh, I had to put my avocado tree outside. I had an avocado tree that actually grew outside by itself, and I put it in a pot, and it's gone through several transplants, and, you know, trying to figure out where outside to put it. Finally had it in for a year, and it was doing really well, and it almost looked like it was going to have fruit. We've had this plant for 8 years now, and then I brought those kittens in from next door that thought that, you know, hey, I can climb on this thing all day. So now I had to put it out on the porch because they were literally killing the darn thing, between sleeping on it and climbing on it and breaking all branches and leaves everywhere. And yeah, so now it's out on the porch. And then we had storms come in and the weather dropped, and so I don't know if it was better outside or not. Poor thing. I would hate to have it 8 years for it to just die. It looks like it's still trying though, last time I checked it. So I don't really have to water it too much with all the rain we've had, and the rain's been coming in on the porch. So, but I do check it every once in a while. It looks like it's starting to recover and do okay. So, but no fruit. At this point, asking myself, why am I holding on to an avocado tree that's not giving me anything? Maybe I should put both of, like, put me and it out of its misery. I don't know. I'll give it another year and see what happens. Problem is, if I keep it outside, then the ants go in there, and then they live in the dirt. Can't win for losing. yeah. So anyway, that's all my garden stuff. So I'll try to put in a little video of my stash enhancement and show you my my plants. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye. Okay, this is my lavender. And this is my rosemary. And they've already been transplanted. Actually, yeah. And it's my avocado tree that's trying to make it. And then I just threw some celery in there for the heck of it, which actually is doing pretty good out here. It wasn't doing that good out in the house. This is my Christmas cactus, which is done blooming for the season. Blooms every Christmas, which is why it's called Christmas cactus. Every winter it blooms. Actually, I think I had more blooms in January than I did in December. Okay, and then here I've got basil, and here I've got sage, and I don't have them labeled, mostly because I've been doing this for years now. And I always start basil and sage indoors, just because the seeds are so small. I don't know why this is upside down. Okay. Anyway, if you look really close, you can start to see the beginnings of sage leaves there. And basil. Now, a little thing about seedlings, if you're just starting out with gardening, you've got the leaves that just come out, like those leaves there. Those are not real leaves. These are called true leaves, because you can see the shape of the leaf that you're going to be getting the herb from. Same thing with basil. Basil, your leaves are always going to start out like this on the end, but then your true leaves are right here in the center. Because if you look, you can start to see the makings of basil leaves in there. So this has been, and when you do seeds indoors, you have to be on it like white on rice. Otherwise, the seeds aren't going to germinate. And also, don't pay attention to the depth of your seeds on the packet when you're starting indoors, or actually really anywhere when it comes to basil seeds or anything like that, because they're so small. You really want to have them more on the surface. So what you do is you just kind of, I get a fork and I just really go a couple of millimeters underneath the soil and wet the soil first, and then I put the seeds in, and then I cover it and then wet it again. And then you wet your seedlings every day and put them in a warm sunny window, and then you'll get your seeds. And some of these seeds are old, because I still have old seeds. I'm trying to see if they germinate. I actually do save my seed, but I like to see if the older ones are going to germinate or if they're already good or not, which is probably not actually helping me, but that's just what I do. So, yep, there you go.